Good morning, this is Tom, still in Holly Springs, North Carolina. It is Saturday morning as usual, but it is dark and rainy, so I do have a light on, which might explain why it looks different than it normally does. Anyway, I was home all week, did really well, so I thought, except for my son's birthday cake, which I explained last week. And let's go upstairs and see what I weigh, and today I will reveal how I feel about nutrition and what I do. Alexa, what day is it?
Today is Saturday, July 7th.
Let's put in 175 for this week. Last week I had mentioned I was falling a little bit behind and I wanted to be at 174 this week, and not only didn't I not lose a pound, I only lost 0.7 pounds, so I'm further away from my goal than I was even last week. This is the most I've been away from my goal since we started back here. So it looks like last week was the furthest I was away until now. So once again, I'm going to try to make this up by eating right, but at least I'm going the right direction. And even back in January, I said I wanted to be on my goal on September 22nd. If I don't reach it on September 22nd, it's the 29th instead, or the 6th or the 13th of October. Do I really care? Nope. But a goal's a goal, so let me see if we can make it up and try to be at 173 by this time next week. By the way, this time is Monday, July 9th. I did record the introduction and recorded my weight on Saturday morning. And once again, it's a beautiful weekend. I just didn't have time to finish this video. So last week, I did have my son's birthday on July 4th. We did make a cake. Here is a picture of it. It's double chocolate as far as being 2 cans of this chocolate icing that we bought, plus a whole bag of Ghirardelli's chocolate chips. So it was packed full of pretty much crap and calories. And I had a little piece because I was part of the celebration. I don't believe in completely banning foods if there's a good reason for it. And celebrating a birthday with my family is one reason to not be super strict about what I eat or don't eat. This week I want to talk about how I view nutrition, and how I view nutrition is a little bit different than I think what the experts view nutrition. It seems like experts have an opinion based on a certain study, and all evidence that points to a different conclusion is pretty much just ignored. I see that over and over again. Plus, I see studies that confirmed one thing and then later on another study contradicts it. I just don't believe you can look at what information is out there and come to a reasonable conclusion whether something is good or bad. So let's just take a look. We have contradictions from experts. You have one expert saying one thing and another expert saying the other thing. You look at the credentials of those experts and they both seem good. They just have different opinions of whether something is good or bad for you. I used to think that was true for just about everything except sugar. Sugar was one thing that I thought everybody agreed on was probably not good for a multitude of reasons. And then I watched the documentary called What the Health, and this is what one person said.
It's not that sugar is good for you. There's no nutrients in it. It's excess calories. But when you eat sugar, you don't get inflammation right away. When you eat sugar, you're not getting plaques forming in your vessels. When you're eating sugar, your body's going to store most of it as glycogen or burn it as calories. And so this focus on sugar has taken all the focus off meat, dairy, eggs, pork, turkey, chicken.
Now, he did not say that it was good for you. He just said other than empty calories, which might lead to being overweight, there's really nothing bad about sugar, despite all these things that I can find on the web. In my opinion, that documentary on Netflix called What the Health should not be in the documentary section. It should be underneath the propaganda section, if there was such a thing. What the Health does is what a lot of other well-meaning people do is they find a study that supports their belief and they stick to it, no matter if there's other studies or even a multitude of studies that contradict it. And what the hell, that's what they did. They found one study that supported their beliefs and completely ignored and never mentioned all the other studies that contradict it. And once they started using a study that supported their beliefs, sometimes they exaggerated the findings of that study. Another reason I don't trust information out there is what was good is now considered bad, and what was bad is now considered good. Who's to say that there's going to be some future revelation that makes everything flip-flop again? And this is because we have these scientific studies that contradict one another. Who's to say which is right, which is wrong, or are they both wrong, or are they both right? I don't know. And then a lot of times, and the people in California know this better than most, is if a food or an ingredient is decided to be bad for you, sometimes it's only really bad if you have to consume way more than you would be on the norm. And the opposite is true, is if an ingredient or particular food is supposed to be good for you, you have to consume way more than the norm in order for you to get any benefits from it. And here are some observations I made. Everyone seems to know someone who ate a terrible diet, but they lived a healthy life over 90 years old or over 100 years old. And conversely, everyone seems to know someone who ate healthy and died at an early age due to some disease that a lot of the experts say, hey, if you eat this, you get that disease. And they did nothing like it. So why is that? Is there more going on to people's health than just the food they eat? There's a lot of advice out there that are saying that almost all diseases and almost all healthiness comes from the food that you eat. I'm thinking it's not quite so simple. Sure, food has a big part of it, but even if you do everything right or everything wrong, there's a chance it doesn't affect you. Which brings me up to, other than poisons, there doesn't seem to be any for sure effect on any food. And what I mean by that is if someone says, you eat this food and you'll get this benefit, or if you eat this type of food, you're surely going to die of cancer or whatever. And that doesn't seem to be for sure. Some people eat those bad foods and nothing bad happens to them, and some people eat nothing but good food, but diseases happen to them. And other than poisons, there doesn't seem to be any for sure effect. Another observation is people respond positively or negatively to a pill that is actually a placebo or a nocebo. And that's not an observation by me, that's an observation by just about everybody. There is no doubt of the placebo effect, where someone is led to believe if they do this, they will get a positive outcome. They do. And if they're told they do this, they're going to get a negative outcome. They do. And so I believe people have the same response to food based on their beliefs. If they think kale is going to be great for them, it probably is. If they think a Snickers bar is going to be bad for them, it probably is. And this is just something I wish. So I know a lot of people, including myself, that when I eat a particular food, I get a negative response. Like for me, it's cranberries. If I eat cranberries, I get gas and bloat. And I can predict it. I know it's going to happen. There's no doubt in my mind that when I eat cranberries, within the hour, I'm going to feel bloated. And what I'd really like is to be able to eat a food and say, if I eat this food, I know that within an hour my eyesight will be better. Or I know that pain in my knees will go away. But it just doesn't seem to happen with me. I don't know if it happens with other people, but I just wish I could eat a food and immediately see a benefit. Just like sometimes when I eat a food and I see a negative response. That would make things really easy for me to choose which foods I eat. So I'm going to come up with some conclusions on what I eat and why I eat it. And they're based on my beliefs. And here are some more. Humans are animals, first of all. Humans are part of nature. It drives me crazy when I hear people say, look at what humans have done to nature. or I'm going to go camping this weekend so I can become more part of nature. Humans are nature. There is nothing you need to do in order to become one with nature. You are nature. And we are specifically animals. And no matter where you look, animals adapt to their environment to survive. It's amazing what animals, and for that matter, plants, also do to survive based on their environment. And I believe humans do that as well. And because of that, what is good nutrition for one person or one group of people may not be the exact same good nutrition for other ones. And that's all because of what they have available to them. If I go up to the Inuits up in northern Canada and say, oh, you people are eating all wrong, you really need to have a bunch of nuts and fruits and veggies, here, watch this movie, What the Health, and you should definitely cut out eating all that fish and whale and all that other kind of stuff. They're going to just look at me like I'm crazy because, first of all, they live in an environment that doesn't support all those vegetables and nuts and fruit very well. Their bodies are in tune with the nature around them. Which leads me up to the problem is, what is ideal for someone like myself whose grandparents and parents and the grandparents' parents and all the way back come from different cultures? I don't know. I live in America. Some of my grandparents were from Sweden, some were from Germany, and before that, I have no idea. Yeah, so I don't really know what my genes are geared to. And just a question, almost everybody agrees that junk food is not ideal for us, but if we eat junk food for several generations, will it be good for us? Will our bodies adapt to it? It's just a question. So finally, here is my recommendations. Try to eat food as if mankind lost the ability to mass produce food. So if all the factories went away and we had to find food based on what we could get our hands on, that is what I think would probably be the best nutrition. Fruits, vegetables, meat, nuts, seafood, etc. The old shop the perimeter of the grocery store concept. Things that are real food, not manufactured. And as far as the actual nutrition of the fruits, vegetables, meats, nuts, and seafood, eat the rainbow. Of course, we're not including artificial colors. And by eating the rainbow, I mean, just take a look at peppers, for example. There's green peppers, there's yellow peppers, there are red peppers, and so on. Each one of those different colors has different nutrients to it. And if every day, maybe not every meal, but every day you eat a variety of colors, you're probably getting a variety of nutrition that you need.
Excuse me, Doctor. It's been a rather long day for my wife. Captain.
Ambassador.
And as we discussed last week, processed food, the definition of processed food is if you take food in its natural environment and pretty much do anything to it. You cook it, you slice it, it then becomes processed food. So I'm not going to use that term processed food anymore to mean it's something that's bad. So my definition is whether processed food is okay or not is if there's any additional ingredients that you wouldn't add at home while making that food, then it's probably okay. An example that I gave last week was Crazy Richard's peanut butter. You look at the ingredients of that peanut butter and it is peanuts. And if I made peanut butter at home, the ingredients would be the exact same thing. So I'm fine with that. So if I'm in the grocery store and I look at a label and I say, okay, what did they use to make this pizza? And it's everything that I would use to make pizza at home with no additional preservatives or sugars or anything else, then I'll eat it. I have no problem with that. As opposed to junk food, which we described last week as being food that has artificial flavors, artificial coloring, added sugar, added salt, added fat. This we want to stay away from. You probably don't want to eat it daily or even weekly. Now that birthday cake that I had last week, definitely was junk food. No ifs, ands, or buts about it. But when's the last time I had a piece of birthday cake? It was back in January when my other son had his birthday. So having a piece of cake in January and having another one in July, the next one will be in August. Really, I don't think that's a problem. You just don't want to do it daily or even weekly. Another definition I came up with junk food is if you can find it in a convenience store at your local gas station, it's probably junk food. Not 100%, but there's a good chance it is. Don't drink calories. Again, I'm talking about nutrition, not losing weight here. And don't drink calories is part of my losing weight thoughts. But it also falls into the nutrition part. If you're drinking a drink that has calories, there's a good chance it's not good for you. Not 100%, but a lot of it. So sodas, fruit drinks, sports drinks, probably not good for you. Sports drinks, by the way, are not so bad if you just had a physical workout and you depleted a lot of your minerals. Sports drinks can definitely replenish that. But if you're drinking a sports drink and you're not doing any vigorous exercising beforehand, then it's probably not good for you. And the one that just really, really bothers me the most is milk. I just don't see any reason people drink milk. I go back to what I had on the previous slide. Humans are animals, specifically mammals. And when you look at any other mammal, they have mother's milk until they are weaned. The whole idea of mother's milk is to fatten them up and get them up to weight as quickly as possible. And then after that, they stop drinking mother's milk and move on to what their regular diet is. And us humans, some of us drink another species' milk for our whole lives. And I don't know, I just don't see the reason for that. I don't see why we have milk in our schools. And especially chocolate milk or strawberry milk. It's just not good for you. And speaking of that, take a look at formulas. These are formulas that have sugar in them. Are we giving our infants baby milkshakes at an early age? Again, if I think of humans as being animals, and specifically women, they are designed to feed babies when they are young. And I understand that you can't do it on every single time the baby needs fed, but the majority of the time you would think you'd want to do it the natural way that nature intended for us to do it, not through baby formula. And again, I want to emphasize, I know that baby formula has its place, but I don't think it should be the majority of what an infant gets. It should be an exception for what the infant gets. And people might look at my first statement up here about the fruits and the vegetables, but just because it is natural doesn't automatically mean it's good for you. I don't buy that. Every time I see something, you should eat this or you should drink this because it's what Mother Nature has. Well, Mother Nature has a lot of things that'll kill you. And it's just not good for you at all, unless you think being dead is good for you. So don't fall for that trap that it's natural. Being natural is a starting point, but it's not the ending point. You have to ask, well, just because it's natural, is it good for me? It doesn't automatically mean it is. And I will not eat anything that doesn't taste good. When it comes to people saying, here's the new superfood, if the superfood tastes awful to me, and I'll give kale as an example, I don't like the taste of kale, I don't like the texture of kale. I just do not like kale, and I will not eat it. If it doesn't taste good, why bother? And here's another one that might be somewhat controversial, is I do not think nutrition comes from a tablet, capsule, or powder. Tablet, capsules, and powder at vitamin stores, this is the definition, of my opinion, of, hey, don't eat processed food. Well, this is about as processed as you can get. Again, I understand there can be exceptions where There might be reasons that you're not getting your nutrition from the food that you eat. I believe that most people can, and only as a last resort would you go to the vitamin store to try to get it. And again, there's studies. Take the studies for what they're worth, but a lot of studies show that a lot of this stuff doesn't work anyway. It might work while it's in the food, but these capsules and powders and tablets just get washed right out of you as soon as you put it in. So, yeah, just don't do it. And that's it. Next week, I'll show you an example of what I eat for breakfast based on what I just told you. Till then, bye.